Welcome to Christparency, the channel where we tackle misconceptions and uncover the truth about Christianity. The topic I wanted to bring up today is really important because it's a really big reason for a lot of people today that leads to avoiding Christianity altogether. So first we must go over, what are they saying? Why is Christianity considered to be anti-science? I went ahead and picked a few arguments that atheists use to try to prove Christianity to be anti-science. Now, I didn't pick all of them because there were some topics that I want to go over in other videos. I just picked a few, and I picked ones that were really good points at face value, but I'm here to obviously, get rid of those stigmas or dogmas or whatever you want to call them. The first one is the conflict with evolution. It says many atheists argue that creationist beliefs such as young earth creationism or whatever reject the overwhelming scientific consensus on evolution and the age of the earth. In simple terms, basically means there's a lot of evidence for evolution, and it's saying that it's going against all of that scientific evidence. Honestly, I will say that is a good point, and it really depends on your views, I guess. But how I look at it is evolution is not inherently anti-Christian, I would say. Evolution is real in as a process, but it's not a good way to explain a place of origin, because evolution teaches that you get better or improve or change in some way off of over time from your previous thing, and it keeps going back and back and back. But there has to be a first thing for it to start. Evolution didn't create life, because evolution really it can't create life. That doesn't make any sense, because it has to come to a first. The first couldn't have come out of thin air, and evolution couldn't have created it. So yes, evolution is a real process, but it's not the explanation for how life started. And of course we believe that life started through God created life. Now this one I haven't really thought about that much, but actually makes a really good point, and I really like the point that atheists try to make here. It says, historically, the Catholic Church's condemnation of Galileo for advocating heliocentrism, I'm guessing that just means the sun being in the center of the universe, because that's what it's talking about, is often cited as an example of religious suppressing scientific progress. Yeah, but that's a really good point. The Catholic Church did do that, and it is not good to suppress ideas just because they're new. Just because people thought something was a way the whole entire, a certain way the whole entire time, and then someone's like, oh, you know what, it actually might be like this way, doesn't mean that it's inherently wrong. Just because it's a new idea doesn't mean it's a wrong idea. And the Catholic Church was definitely wrong for condemning Galileo for that, because no matter how long someone thinks something is that way, it won't ever change the fact of what truly is, right? But so yeah, that is a really good point. Catholic Church definitely should not have condemned Galileo for that. The next one is, it says that Christians sometimes prioritize prayer and or faith over actual physical remedies and medicine and stuff like that. Now, I will say that is a problem within the Christianity community, I guess, but it's more prominent in other religions, I would say, because I've heard of instances where Muslims will let people die because God wills them to die, or something like that. Yeah, I've definitely heard of that in other religions. It's not as prominent in Christianity, but I definitely see that the point that they're trying to make. And I think it's important to know that obviously both are important. Obviously both prayer or faith and medicine are very, very important. People pray because we want God's will to be done, and no matter what God's will is, we know that he is in control, and that nothing would ever happen that would ever go against God's plan, which isn't to say that bad stuff still can't happen, and that it doesn't sadden God when somebody dies or has an illness of some kind, because it definitely does, and there's definitely evidence of that. But ultimately it's out of our hands, and all we really can do, sometimes all you can do is go to God and pray. Sometimes, because there's medical problems that people have that can't be treated, or you don't know the treatment of or for, And those are the times where you really need to go to pray to God for those kinds of things the most. So I really like this next point, and I'm going to tell you why here in a second. It says that atheists often say that Christians take the Bible into a literal interpretation for Genesis, that it was literally created in 6 days, and that it goes against a lot of scientific evidence. I like this because I actually am not certain on this exactly. I feel like of all of the topics of the Bible, in terms of comparing it with science, this is the trickiest one, and I don't think we'll ever truly know the answer, which is okay. It's okay to not know everything, but yeah, I'm not certain how long it took God, or how long God took, I should say, God took to create the earth. I don't know, but I'm fine with not knowing that. And if there's like scientific, well, it's weird because there's scientific evidence and there's scientific proof. If there's scientific proof of the earth not being created in 6 days, I don't think that disproves the Bible at all. It could be not a literal interpretation. I just don't know. There's no way to know. No matter how strongly you feel either way, there's not really any way to know for certain. But yeah, that's a good point. But I don't think it goes against science unless there's like proof it does. But even then, it can also not be literally interpreted. It's just kind of a weird one because you don't know and you never will know. And I still don't know. I don't think anyone ever truly will know. In the grand scheme of things, it's really all not that important. Well, it's important, but it's not important in like our current lives, I guess. Post-editing Jamin here. Just wanted to add one extra thing on this section real quick. It is also possible for the creation of the earth to go against scientific evidence, which sounds kind of crazy at first, but there's a lot of things in a lot of examples in the Bible that go against scientific evidence, which is how miracles are born. And it's possible that the creation of the earth was one of those miracles. This next point isn't very specific. It's kind of just in general. It kind of goes based off of what it was saying earlier about Galileo. It's kind of going based off of that, just more of a broader point. There are religious communities and churches and places like that that discourage questioning and challenges, what general people in the community believe. And I think that is wrong. I think that's wrong to discourage questioning, because how else are you supposed to learn? That's a really big point of why I created this channel, actually, is because if we don't talk about these hard topics, then how are we going to get anywhere? It's promoting the blind in blind faith, I guess. If you try to keep Christians blind, they will have blind faith. That's not how it should be. You should be asking questions. What I'm trying to make is, I want to, well, you've heard me say in the intro, I want to get rid of lies and misconceptions. I want to tackle a lot of these arguments that atheists have. If you noticed a theme in my videos, it's all about points that atheists make, and I want to take those points and I want to kind of say how it really is to give it a better understanding, because if I avoid these kinds of problems, then what does that ultimately accomplish? I do think it's really good to take arguments and look at them and give the Christian perspective. Sorry, this section is all over the place. I know what I'm thinking. It's just really hard because I don't know how to say it. But hopefully you got what I was trying to say there. Let's move on to the last one. Now, this argument I saved for last because it is the most frustrating one. It's when the atheists use the God of the gaps argument. If something's unexplainable, Christians use God as an explanation. That's what they say all of our reasoning is like. And that's not true at all. God is not God of the gaps. God is God of the everything. God is in control of both things that we do understand in science, and he's also in control of things that we don't understand or don't know yet, or ever will know. Who knows if what we'll know or we'll never know. Yeah, I don't like the argument. God is not God of the gaps. God is God of everything. God of science. God of things. God of things known. God of things unknown. He's God of everything. I guess it could seem like that way to atheists, but no, this argument is just completely made up. It's not true. I mean, maybe some people are like that, but it just doesn't make sense, which is why I don't like this argument at all. The more you think about it, it's just the more you realize how kind of stupid of an argument it is. Now that we've got a better understanding of a few points that atheists make to say that Christianity is anti-science, I have here a few examples of some people who made big contributions to science who were also Christian. The first that we want to look at here is George's, and I looked up how to pronounce this name, Lemaitre. I think it was Tra. Hold on, let me look it up. Lemaitre is the English pronunciation. I probably butchered that, but I tried. Guys, you have no idea how hard I tried to pronounce that. Lemaitre is what I'm going with, though. He was a Belgian Catholic priest who first proposed the Big Bang Theory. What? Yep, not a lot of people know that, but the Big Bang Theory was created by a Catholic, which is insane because atheists try to use the Big Bang Theory to disprove Christianity, when in fact it was Christians who came up with that theory. Imagine how different debate would be for Christianity if everybody knew this. It's crazy. I didn't even know this up until like a couple months ago. That's just absolutely insane. If you don't believe me, you can look it up here for yourself. Yes, a Catholic priest came up with the Big Bang Theory. I guess the more debated parts would be like the details, I guess. But the point is, that's a big deal. That's a really good point to use, that the Big Bang Theory, assuming it's true, doesn't even go against Christianity. Or at least it's possible that it doesn't, which is why it's really important that we do encourage critical thinking. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have this theory to begin with. Next was Edward Jenner. No, not at all related to Kylie Jenner or any of the Jenners. No. Okay, that was a really bad joke. But yes, they were a Christian who studied immunology and helped create the smallpox vaccine. Smallpox? What in the world? Smallpox. But yeah, big contribution and helped save many lives. There's a lot of study that went into it. This one's not more so about theological arguments or moral, or insert whatever word you want to here. But the point is, Christians, there are a lot of Christians that have made big scientific breakthroughs, and this is a really, really good example. Now, I only recently learned about this person, but after doing a little bit of research, he's pretty darn cool. His name is George Cantor, and he was a German mathematician who was inspired by Christianity to create what is called set theory. And basically what that does is it helps to classify things, and he tries to use the theory that he created to help understand the infinite, which of course is God, because God is infinite. And I thought that was really cool that not only did he create a scientific theory, but he tried to use his own theory that he created to try to learn more about God, which is just absolutely amazing. That is so cool. That is like one of the coolest things I've ever heard of. I would definitely consider doing some research on this guy because he is pretty darn cool. You guys have probably heard of this guy before, but Nicholas Copernicus was a Renaissance devout Catholic. He helped to formulate the heliocentric model. Yes, Galileo created it, but he helped to formulate the model for it. It's kind of interesting that the Catholic Church condemned Galileo, and yet a Catholic helps create the model for it. That is so cool. That is literally just absolutely amazing. And this is why we should not condemn people like that, because what if they're right? They could be right. And if you're just shoving away whatever they say as random nonsense, then we're not going to really get anywhere as a society. Last but not least, we have Carl Linnaeus, who developed the modern system of taxonomy for classifying and naming organisms. And that's really awesome because he used his faith and his smartedness to create a system. It's kind of sort of like what George Cantor did, but instead of helping to better understand God, it helps us better understand God's creations. And ultimately, that's what science really is. Science is trying to understand God's creation because everything is created by God. That's why we have biology. Biology is just a study of animals and humans, which God created. Just any scientific, anything that you can think of is just a study of something that God created. And I think that is really awesome. That is what science is to me. And that's why I don't think Christianity is anti-science, because science doesn't disprove God. Science proves and shows the processes of things that God created. And that's really what science should be to us. It should not be something that can disprove Christianity. It should be something to strengthen it. So, if there's any question that you should be having by the end of this, you should be wondering, can science and faith not only be compatible, but can they work together? And I'm going to say that answer is a resounding yes. Yes, it can. And I want to give you a few examples of how. First of all, what is science? Science is learning how the universe works and operates. And you'll notice science is really complicated. And I'll be honest, I don't like science. That's part of the reason why, is because science is just really complicated. It's so hard to understand. But that kind of is amazing, that all of this different stuff is so complicated, but then atheists are just going to go and say that it just happened, that God didn't create any of this. It makes more rational sense that someone did create all of these very different and very complicated processes, and that person had to have been God, because he created the earth, and so he had to have created all of the things inside, not just earth, but the universe and everything. He had to have created all of it. It makes sense the more you think about it. If God created everything, wouldn't he have also created the processes at which things work? And I feel like that is a really big point towards understanding and knowing that God exists. Now, ethics play a huge role in science. There are often science experiments that aren't done due to ethics. And if ethics were subjective, then we wouldn't have them in science, right? Because if the true point of science was to figure something out no matter what, we would be doing a lot of unethical stuff. But if ethics was subjective, why would we have it push away the progression in science? It doesn't make any sense. From an atheist standpoint, we don't care if we have to torture 1,000 babies. If we get an answer to a question, ultimately it accomplishes what we're wanting, which is the truth, right? You see the point? If ethics were subjective, why in the world would we bring it into science? It just doesn't make any sense. So, of course, science answers the physical. It answers what something is and how they work, but it doesn't answer why. Okay, yeah, cool. We have this ladybug here, for example. Why does it exist? Or we have this tree, or just literally any random object that you could pick, literally anything. Okay, maybe not literally, but you get my point. Why do they exist? And that's what faith tackles. That's what gives us perspectives on emotions and ethical values. We get all of that from God, and God gives us faith, and that helps us answer the why. Because we can learn as much of stuff that we want using science, but it's never going to truly answer the things that truly matter. Because whether we know it or when it comes to science, whether we know something or not, it's still going to be that way no matter what. Not only is it what saves us, but it's also what gives us the insight on the things that are most important. God saves us by giving us faith, and we use that faith to understand God. It kind of goes full circle, and that's what I really like about faith, and that why faith, in my opinion, and what hopefully is your opinion, is that it's more important than science. So, to close this video off, I just want to say, rather than being at odds, faith and science actually not only complement each other, but build each other up and encourage each other. I talk about them like they're people, but you get my point. They tackle the same issues, but in different ways, in both very important ways. Ultimately, without either, we're kind of lost. We need both to really understand what life is. Life is both science and faith. That's why we need them together. They complement each other not just well, but extremely well. And I hope that this video has gotten you closer to understanding why Christianity is not anti-science. It's the people that misuse science to corrupt how people approach Christianity. But I hope you guys learned something. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like. I would really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a very God-blessed day.